Hey, it's Jen, and it's time for the Power Chord devlog. This week, we sat down with Jamie and Miko once again to talk about Roxy Cleaver, the brand new bandmate in the brand new demo. Let's check out what they had to say. So what were some of the ideas and motivations for Roxy's character?
Early on with Roxy, we were throwing around what sort of kind of defensive themes a character might have. Or the knight was an obvious one for us, but what other kinds of characters you could see with a shield, blocking, defending, heavily armored. So Roxy's character came from a couple different places. It initially started with more of a riot cop feel, and we wanted to move away from that a little bit. So she did evolve more into kind of like an armored gladiator sort of feel, and then just a little bit of kind of a roller derby feel to it as well, which is actually where we stole the name from. That is a roller derby name of somebody in the studio. So she was a lot of sort of that gladiator approach to a defensive character.
Miko, can you tell us a little bit about what the pipeline looked like for Roxy?
Roxy is the first character beyond the first four, and because she's also a drummer, she needed to play differently than the previous drummer. And she kind of set the stage for how different the different characters are going to be, despite their classes being similar. So her concept was, how do I bring in the idea of a more normal, more balanced kind of drummer? Somebody who has a good offense and a good defense, and somebody who actually takes advantage of the armor stat that 4 doesn't really apply too much to. Roxy is kind of the middle ground between DPS and a defender, but they can play either role highly effectively, entirely based on how you want to build them.
And what about the creation of Roxy's mechanics and gameplay?
The big challenge with Roxy was the stone charges. How do they work? How does she get them? And how does she use them? Originally, they were just handed to her one every turn, and that was proving way too slow, just wasn't particularly rewarding. So then maybe there was a relationship where the damage that she's dealing is providing them. That ramped up a little bit too quickly, and there were definitely turns where she could do over 400 or 500 damage. So she built up a little bit too fast in that situation. So the current iteration, she actually has dedicated cards for building it up, and can get more for doing more damage, as well as for targeting enemies that specifically have armor. A lot of her abilities also went through numerous balance adjustments because they also have a relationship to her stone charges, either in acquiring them or spending them. So some of them will have ratios in how much they provide rather than being multiplicative like they used to be.
Do you have any advice you'd give to a player that wants to focus on a playthrough with Roxy?
I think that if you're focusing on a run with Roxy, you have to keep in mind that she's equally balanced between attacking and defending. So try not to build too much of a specific hand. She can jump really easily between attacking and defending, even within a single turn. So make sure that you're trying to build her balanced with those spikes for the right time. But it is important to not forget that she also needs to keep the rest of the team alive too.
And what about you, Miko?
There's not a lot of characters outside the drummers that are based on keeping your team alive. I mean, you can definitely have Stitch try to help with that, but she's more of a long view kind of character. So balancing out Roxy's offense and defense is really important. So even more important than just using or getting the right cards is using them at the right time. Sometimes it's better to get those stone charges after you've already spent your previous stack than it is to just get a big stack and spend them now. And it's very important to, of course, consider where is the armor currently needed on your team, and can I move it now? Can I move it later?
What are some of your favorite cards in Roxy's arsenal?
One of the interesting cards that she has is called Accretion, and it lets her take armor away from herself or her allies and convert it into stone charges. This can be combined with either converting those back into armor or for simply converting them into damage. So if you get it in an early draw, you can very quickly build up her stone charges to take advantage of cards like Avalanche, or to strategically change where people's armor is. So that's really one of my favorites. It also has a really fun combination with Grimnir because it's taking his armor away is considered damage, which means that he gains rage charges for it. And she has a card called Fossilize, which takes the stone charges and applies them as armor. So you can take the armor away and put it right back and get rage charges in the interim. So she pairs off really well with him when you've got that in your deck.
What about you, Jamie?
I really like the ones that take advantage of the stone charges to do a lot of additional hits and damage. I believe Avalanche is the one I'm thinking of. Very early on, when we were still trying to figure out exactly how those stone charges were going to work, Avalanche was the one where people were kind of really competing to see who could do the most ridiculous over-the-top damage in a single turn. And so we'd have people going from having 999 armor on all of their characters to then showing off their cards saying that they're about to do 268 damage times 90 attacks. And it was just a really fun one to see how broken it could be. But even now, it still stayed really powerful. And so it's fun to be able to kind of stall the first couple rounds of a fight in order to do really big attacks with it. So that's probably my favorite strategy with her. There's also gear items that will allow you to build up additional charges based on taking that armor damage as well. So you can actually take 10 armor off and then immediately put 15 back on just through a combination of cards. So you can use that to build up as much as possible just by sort of recycling the charges that you've got.
In other exciting Power Chord news, we are going to be showcasing the game at PAX Rising in Boston for PAX East from April 21st to April 24th. You can have a chance to talk with some of the devs, play the demo, and ask any of your burning questions at booth 13091. We can't wait to see you there. Well, that's all from me. I'll catch you bandmates later.